The British Empire has witnessed yet another sunset, this time in the Chagos Islands. The UK is returning the islands to Mauritius. Chagos is a cluster of strategically important islands in the Indian Ocean. The largest among them is Diego Garcia. It became a military base for the UK and the US when Mauritius, a former British colony, was forced to give up the islands in exchange for their independence in 1968. Over the past few years, there has been mounting pressure on the UK to surrender from several nations, including India. In fact, sources say that India played a quiet but important role. And after more than half a century, the UK is finally handing over the sovereignty of these islands. Why does it matter? And what does the deal say? Here's a report.
The Chagos Islands. It's an archipelago of more than 60 islands in the Indian Ocean. This is a remote but strategically important cluster. After all, this was Britain's last African colony. We say was because after more than a century, the UK has finally agreed to hand over sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. This is a historic move. It comes after decades of mounting anger and years of fractious negotiations. Here is a quick flashback. Mauritius was a former British colony. It was illegally forced to give the Chagos Islands away in return for its own independence in 1968, and Chagos became the so-called British Indian Ocean Territory. Back then, the British negotiated a secret deal with the US. They agreed to lease Diego Garcia, the largest atoll of Chagos, which became a US-UK military base. The UK evicted about 1,500 residents. They were sent to Mauritius and the Seychelles. Britain later apologized for this move and promised to hand the islands to Mauritius when they were no longer needed for strategic use. But that day never came. The UK insisted that Mauritius had no legitimate claim to the islands. Standard colonial gaslighting. But in recent years, the UK has faced diplomatic isolation over their claim. Various UN bodies, including the Top Court and General Assembly, have sided with Mauritius, demanding that the UK surrender. Several nations, including India, have played their part as well. According to sources, India has played a quiet but important role. So finally, they have. Which brings us back to the deal. What does it say? First, it secures the future of Diego Garcia. This island has been central to the territory dispute. Even today, it's a key military base for the UK and the US. It houses Navy ships and long-range bomber aircraft. So the deal guarantees the operation of the base for the next 99 years. And second, it secures the future of the archipelago's people. Islanders who were displaced in the past 5 decades now have the right of return. India has called the outcome a win for all sides, as per sources. US President Joe Biden welcomed the deal. He says that it was a clear demonstration that through diplomacy and partnership, countries can overcome long-standing historical challenges to reach peaceful and mutually beneficial outcomes. But not everyone is happy. The UK's Conservative leaders have called this a weak and appalling move. No surprises there. But about half a century after the UK gave up control of most of its vast global empire, it has finally agreed to hand over the Chagos Islands. But this is one of many, including the Cayman Islands, Falkland Islands, and Gibraltar. Now, the other British overseas territories can only wait for the sun to set on the empire on their shore.
Firstpost decodes the U.S. election. Explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on Firstpost.